Hey everybody, Paul here to talk to you about data visualization on the web. I'm excited to dig into some data visualization, but before we get started, I just want to do a basic setup video to make sure everybody's on the same page. If you're already familiar with JavaScript build systems and package management and that sort of thing, you can probably just skip ahead, do the setup on your own, and meet me at the next video. But if some of this is sort of new to you and you want to see it happen, stick around and I'll demo this on my own computer. So I've got Visual Studio Code here open. I just dragged up a terminal window and I'm just going to copy over this command. And that's just going to download the course materials that I've prepared. Right now it's going to be a pretty empty repo, but by the time you get to it, I will have completed the lesson. So you'll have working versions of all the code that you'll see here. Now I'm going to change into that directory and then run yarn install, which will download all of the dependencies that we use. Mostly here it's just Svelte and some pretty typical development tools, as well as some data visualization specific tools, things like D3. And finally, I'm going to run the development server locally. It'll take a minute to build because it's the first time. And once it's done, it will print out a URL. And if I click that, it takes me into this page that I've set up here. So to see where that comes from, I'm going to open the repo that I've just cloned. I cloned it to desktop, so it was handy. The development server's gone now because VS Code started a new session, so I'm just going to do yarn dev again. And it's given me a different port, which is fine. So if I go into source here, this is being rendered with Svelte from this index.svelte. I'm just going to make a change. And when I save it, you can see this does some stuff and this updates. So this sort of live reloading dev server capability ships with Svelte. It's a really nice thing to have, especially when we're doing some data visualization where we want to be making changes and seeing updates in a very quick loop. There's nothing magic about this index.svelte. It's just included from this main TS file. This main TS file loads that Svelte file and renders it onto the page. This in turn is being specified in the rollup config. I've specified source main as the entry point. Rollup is the bundler here that Svelte uses by default. So this is just taking all of the Svelte files, compiling them all to JavaScript that the browser understands, and producing a single JavaScript file that the browser will load. In this rollup in turn, when we do yarn dev, that's calling rollup through this script defined in the package JSON. It's a pretty straightforward setup. There's not a lot of magic here. I think that kind of covers the basics of that. So that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I'll see you at the next one and we can start writing some code.